Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Indonesia and today I will be your special reporter. In this video, I will introduce you to the Indonesia as one of the most important country in Southeast Asia and a potential market for farm fresh global expansion strategy. Indonesia is the fourth most populous country in the world with a current population of 286.8 million as of Saturday, 3rd January of 2026, based on Wonder Meta elaboration of latest United Nations data. And this largest population presents a significant consumer market opportunity for everyday products such as a dairy product. Economically, Indonesia is Southeast Asia's largest economy and has shown steady growth in a recent year. According to the official data, Indonesia GDP expanded at around 5.03% in the third quarter of 2025. It's driven by the strong household consumption, investment activity, and export performance. Indonesia's economy in the third quarter of 2025 recorded a relatively stable growth compared to the same period last year. In 2025, the economy continues to grow at roughly 5% annually, demonstrating resilience even in the face of global uncertainty. Indonesia is known for its ethnic diversity with 100 of distinct groups. The largest ethnic group is the Javanese, making up to 40% of the population, followed by the Sundanese at about 15.5%, and many of the groups including Malay, Batak, Maduris, and others. This diverse population is spread across more than 17,000 islands, creating both opportunity and cultural complexity for businesses operating nationwide. Indonesia, which is Bahasa Indonesia, is a national language, and nearly 9 of the 10 of Indonesian population profess Islam. Approximately 87% of Indonesia identify as a Muslim. To summarize, Indonesia's large population, stable economic growth, cultural diversity, and a strong religious identity make it a unique and dynamic market for expansion. Understanding this demographic and economic foundation is essential for any businesses, including farm fresh, considering as the internal growth.
Moving on, I will explain about the 4 key cross-cultural risks that farm fresh should consider before entering the Indonesian market and how these risks can be managed. Firstly, product freshness perception and local consumption culture. In Indonesia, many consumers traditionally associate fresh milk with products that are locally produced and recently processed. In some households, milk is still boiled before consumption, which reflects a cultural preference for visibly fresh food. Farm Fresh, however, promotes freshness through modern cold chain technology and longer shelf life. This creates a cross-cultural risk because Indonesian consumers may initially perceive packaged milk as overly processed or less fresh. So, to initially reduce this risk, Farm Fresh should educate consumers by clearly communicating its farm-to-bottle process, highlighting production dates, and emphasizing local processing to align with Indonesian expectation of freshness. The second risk relates to religious and cultural sensitivity, particularly halal food culture. Indonesia is the world's largest Muslim majority country, and halal compliance plays a critical role in food purchasing decisions. Even for dairy products, consumers expect clear halal assurance throughout the production and supply chain. If Farm Fresh fails to fully comply with or communicate halal standard, it could face consumer distrust and reputational damage. So to avoid this risk, Farm Fresh should obtain halal certification from Indonesian authorities and ensure that halal practices are strictly followed and clearly communicated on packaging and marketing material. The third cross-cultural risk is Indonesian high context and indirect communication style. In Indonesian business culture, people tend to avoid confrontation and may communicate disagreement indirectly to maintain harmony. As a result, silence or polite responses do not always mean agreement. This poses a risk for FarmFresh because managers may assume that decision or timeline have been agreed upon when they have not. To mitigate this risk, FarmFresh should encourage relationship-based communication, confirm agreement in writing, and employ local managers who understand implicit communication cues. The last cross-cultural risk involved language diversity and local interpretation. Indonesia has over 700 local languages, and although Bahasa Indonesia is the official language, regional expression and meanings vary widely. So, even though Malay and Indonesian appear similar, differences in wording and context can lead to misunderstanding. If FarmFresh assume direct language transfer, marketing messages or internal instruction may be misinterpreted. So, to reduce this risk, FarmFresh should localize its communication by working with local language experts and adapting marketing content to suit local cultural context. In short, while Indonesia offers strong market potential, FarmFresh faced moderate cross-cultural risks related to freshness perception, religious expectation, communication style, and also language diversity. However, with proper cultural adaptation, local expertise, and clear communication strategies, these risks can be effectively managed. That's all from me. I'll pass to the next presenter.
My name is Muhammad Khairul Daham, so I will be talking about the country's evolution based on Indonesia in 2025. Following the transition of the Prabowo administration, the political landscape is defined by focus on a continuity with the vision of Golden Vision 2025. So while the government remains stable, the risk is centralization. As reported by the Carnegie Endowment, the push of rapid development has created an accountability deficit. For investors, this means a stable top-down environment, but one that requires careful navigation of shifting internal policies, alliances. Next, legal and regulatory environment. Moving to the legal landscape of 2025, Indonesia has brought a major breakthrough. Under BKPM, Regulation Number 5, the government has slashed the minimum paid-up capital by foreign companies from 10 billion to 2.5 billion rupiah. This is a massive signal that Indonesia is open for the business. However, while the OSS system has digitized many licenses, the regulatory environment is still complex. Investors must remain diligent with high-risk sectors like food and dairy, which face stricter local compliance. Next is about the corruption and economic volatility. We can ignore the transparency tax. Transparency International of 2024 index ranks Indonesia at 99 globally with a score of 37. Corruption remains a structural risk. Economically, however, the outlook is resilient. The IMF confirmed that 5% of GDP growth for 2025. So the main volatility risk is not internal, but it is external. Fluctuation in the rupiah and global trade tensions are the primary watch item for Indonesia financial planning. Next is about the trade and investment. So the most exciting and risky sector right now is the trade. The government's free nutritious meal program has created a massive demand vacuum. To fill it, Indonesia aims to import 150,000 to 200,000 dairy cattle this year. So the risk is protectionism. Local farmers are pressuring the government for higher import tariff. Additionally, mandatory halal certification is now strictly enforced. To succeed, we must balance our import strategy with local absorption, investing in a local farming partnership to stay in the government good grades.
For this section, I'll be discussing Indonesia's currency and financial risk. Currency and financial risk refers to uncertainty arising from exchange rate movements, inflation, interest rates, and overall financial conditions. These risks affect firms' costs, financing decisions, profitability, and long-term planning. First, in terms of exchange rate risk, Indonesia operates a managed floating exchange rate system where the rupiah is largely market determined, but Bank Indonesia intervenes to limit excessive volatility. While this provides flexibility, it also leads to less predictable exchange rate movements. For foreign firms, this creates several risks.
Exchange rate fluctuations can affect the cost of imported inputs and capital goods, and there is valuation risk when profits earned in Indonesian rupiah are converted back into foreign currencies, affecting the realized value of earnings. Exchange rate volatility also makes long-term cost and investment planning more difficult. According to the World Bank, the rupiah has shown sensitivity to global capital flows, with periods of global uncertainty leading to capital outflows and increased exchange rate pressure. Next, regarding inflation and interest rates, Indonesia experiences moderate but fluctuating inflation, which affects business costs such as labor, logistics, and energy. To manage inflationary and currency pressures, Bank Indonesia applies a tighter monetary policy stance, including policy interest rate adjustments. While this supports stability, it can lead to higher borrowing costs and tighter financing conditions, increasing uncertainty for firms planning future operations. Finally, Indonesia is exposed to external financial shocks. As an emerging economy with high global trade integration, it is more vulnerable to global interest rate changes and sudden capital outflows. The World Bank highlights lower credit growth and tighter effective financing conditions during periods of global uncertainty, which can constrain access to financing for foreign firms. Overall, Indonesia's financial system remains broadly stable, but exchange rate sensitivity, capital flow volatility, and tighter financing conditions create planning uncertainty rather than short-term instability. So, in conclusion, Indonesia presents a moderate level of currency and financial risk, making it neither a low risk nor high risk environment, but one where careful financial planning is required. That's all from me. Let's move on to the next topic.
The first commercial risk in Indonesia is local content requirement, or known as TKDN. TKDN is tingkat komponen dalam negeri. It is Indonesia local content policy that requires a certain percentage of goods or services to be sourced from Indonesia. Let's say the TKDN puts requirement of 40%, then at least 40% of the product value must come from Indonesia. So for foreign business that want to enter Indonesia to market their business, they may face some increase in cost and complexity to follow TKDN requirement. The second commercial risk is Indonesian mandatory testing, or known as Indonesian national standard. Even if a product has met international standard, the Indonesian government still require that product to undergo a local lab testing. So this will increase the cost to the company, and it will delay the product to be entered into the market. So should Farm Fresh enter Indonesia? The answer is yes, but through a phased market strategy, because entering all at once is too risky. By starting small, Farm Fresh can learn how Indonesia's system actually works, how long approval take, how regulations are applied in practice, and what adjustments are needed without committing too much money upfront. A phased entry also reduces financial risk. If the currency weaken or cost increase, firm will not be overexposed. At the same time, it can learn the Indonesian consumer understanding of fresh milk and adjust its product before expanding.
As we stand at the beginning of 2026, the case for the Farm Fresh enter into Indonesia has moved from possibility to strategic necessity. Following our record-breaking performance in 2025, where Farm Fresh revenue exceeded 1 billion Malaysia ringgit for the first time, Farm Fresh we are recommending a strategic equity joint venture to replicate our grass-to-glass success in Southeast Asia, largest economy. Why are we confident? As highlighted in recent market analysis, Farm Fresh now command a dominant 60% market share in Malaysia chilled milk segment. Farm Fresh are not just a dairy company, but a vertically integrated powerhouse. By controlling everything from the farm to the shelf, they can maintain a gross profit margin of over 30% despite global supply chain fluctuation. This is the exact expertise we are bringing to Indonesia. Our primary recommendation is to solidify the existing partnership with Induk KUD, Indonesian largest agriculture cooperative in the complex Indonesian landscape. Induk KUD can be their local anchor. They provide us with the immediate network of thousands of rural farmers, and most importantly, the political and social capital needed to operate as a national rather than a foreign brand. This joint venture allows Farm Fresh to leverage KUD's massive local infrastructure while They provide a grass-to-glass technology that has made Farm Fresh a leader in Malaysia. The core of this joint venture strategy is to capture the free nutritious meal and BG program in Indonesia with a government budget of 335 trillion rupiah for 2026. This is the single largest dairy offtake opportunity in Southeast Asia. By partnering with Induk KUD, Farm Fresh can align itself with the Indonesian government's preference for cooperative-led supply chain. This secure their volumes, reduce the marketing risk, and guarantee a steady revenue stream from day one. The benefits of joint venture are threefold. First, halal leadership. Together with the Induk KD, Farm Fresh position in Indonesia as a global hub for halal food production, ensuring 100% compliance with 2026 mandates of Halal Product Assurance Agency (BPJPH). Second, logistical power. Farm Fresh Produce will be a supporter for the program by helping construct up to 5,000 central kitchen, integrating their cold chain logistics directly into the community. And the third one, political shielding. As a partner to the national cooperative, Farm Fresh are insulated from the risk typically faced by the foreign investor, benefiting from its simplified import process for their breeding cows. In 2025, Farm Fresh reached a revenue milestone of 1 billion Malaysian ringgit. Their move into Indonesia with Induk KUD is a next chapter. By empowering local farmers and nourishing Indonesian youth, Farm Fresh are not just selling milk, but they are building a resilient, multi-generational food ecosystem. With Induk KUD, the future of the Farm Fresh in Indonesia is not just fresh, it's foundational.